What's going on, guys? Ryan O'Toole back here again, giving you guys another collaboration review. If you guys haven't seen yet, I did do a review of Rise of the Planet of the Apes over on my special guest channel, and now this is part 2 of my Planet of the Apes series of reviews, leading up to a War for the Planet of the Apes. And if you can already tell by the title, we are reviewing Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, my favorite in this Planet of the Apes trilogy. I have so much to get into with this movie, and I want to welcome my special guest, Sean Chandler from Sean Chandler Talks About. Sean, tell us about yourself. What do you do on your channel?
Hey, my name's Sean Chandler. Obviously, my channel's called Sean Chandler Talks About. It's named after me, and I like to talk about movies, TV, do ranking videos. But really, I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies with you guys, so I love to interact with you guys in the chat board, get your feedback. And that's why I wanted to join in and talk about also one of my favorite movies right now, this Planet of the Apes series. So we already talked about Rise, and now we get to talk about Dawn, one of the great sequels of all time.
Oh, yes, it is. And without further ado, let's talk about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Except this time around, it's not directed by Rupert Wyatt, who directed Rise. It's now directed by Matt Reeves, who directed Cloverfield, the first one. Also directed War for the Planet of the Apes coming up, as well as the solo Batman movie with Ben Affleck. And in this movie, you got Andy Serkis returning as Caesar, and you got some new humans like Jason Clarke, Kerry Russell, Cody Smit-McPhee, and Gary Oldman, and also you have Toby Kebbell returning as Koba. When I first saw this movie, Sean, in the theater back in 2014, I was a senior in high school. And watching Rise before seeing this movie, I knew how great Rise was, but I was thinking, watching the trailer for Dawn, this is going to be even better. And walking out of it, I loved it. I can easily say this is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, maybe. Even top 20. I mean, this is the Empire Strikes Back, The Dark Knight, Spider-Man 2, the Captain America, The Winter Soldier, the sequel that is far superior to the original. What are your experiences, Sean, seeing Dawn of the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, so as we talked about in our previous review, I didn't have high expectations for Rise, didn't see it in the theater. When I finally did see it, I mean, it kind of blew me away. And I saw it a couple years, or a year and a half after it had been in the theaters. So right after I watched Rise, the trailer started to drop for Dawn. And so I didn't have much of a waiting period for the excitement. It was just straight from, wow, this is really good. And then, oh, look, there's a trailer for this new thing. And like most other people, I saw the trailers for Dawn and I was like, wow, this might be better. And it might be a brilliant continuation. There's a lot of potential for this to be really good. And as we got closer, my only real concern kind of going into it was Gary Oldman as he was portrayed in the trailer. Felt like a one-dimensional, he's going to be the racist against the animals. I can see where this is going. And then I watched the movie, and that was my biggest concern, and that's not accurate. That's not what Gary Oldman is in the movie at all. His character is very well, obviously, of course, well acted, but his motivations are very clear. He's not just a racist guy. He's not just a moron. You fully understand why he's doing, and he's justified in what he's doing. So I loved it. I actually went to go see it like opening day. And then I was like, this is amazing. I got to see it again with my wife, and then dragged my wife to go see it like a day later. And I, especially at that point in time in my life, I was very busy. So there's very few movies I saw twice in the theater, let alone twice in a weekend. And the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is one of those movies.
I can't disagree with you, Sean. I've seen this movie at least over 10 times. I love it every single time I watch it. And so, let's start with the positives for Dawn. The performances in this movie are even better than Rise. This is the film that I thought Andy Serkis should have been nominated for an Oscar, and that's no joke. Like, he is 100 times more better as Caesar. I mean, his emotional performance, his seriousness, he has that same command as in Rise, and here, he just has so many dark paths in this movie. I love his... You know, you see him more now as a father. He now has a son, blue eyes, and a family, a wife. He has another kid. It's just, I really love the humanity that Caesar has. That's what made him such a great character in the first movie. The other performances in this movie I loved were Koba, played by Toby Kebbell. talk about a great villain. I mean, and you were talking about with Gary Oldman that you thought he was going to be the villain, but it's Koba. The ape is the villain in this movie. And it's kind of a balance that the apes are fighting the apes like they're having consequences. This huge rivalry between Caesar and Koba throughout this entire film. Like, each person has different viewpoints. And Koba's one of those villains that you can completely understand where he's coming from. Even though you know he's doing bad stuff. But you understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, very much what you said there, that what makes the story really work is there's legitimate conflict in the narrative. There's a tense situation where it's you have competing values, where you've got humans that don't want to die and apes that for right reason don't trust them and they don't want to die. And then within the ape side, you have competing worldviews, even within that, of how should we respond to the humans, obviously with the Koba Caesar disagreement, in which case it develops. It's an exploration of humanity. It's an exploration of worldviews, to where we're seeing different ways that we interpret data, different ways that we deal with stress, different ways that we deal with competing values with other people, how we deal with trust, how we deal with the pains and the hurts of the past. And that's what makes this such an emotionally resonant story, that you look at Caesar, and as he was being raised, he certainly felt the bigotry and of humanity and felt the consequences of that, but he also saw the love of humanity, and Koba did not. It's interesting, it's compelling as you're watching it, because they're fleshed out. There's a whole backstory that's not just trickled in there. We've seen little details of it in the previous film, where the conflict and the setup and the conflict within Caesar and the relationship with Koba is established in the previous film. And then we see that played out to its fullest here, and each of their character qualities are fully on display here.
Yeah, I completely agree. And real quickly, let's talk about the other performances. I thought the human characters were a lot more interesting in this movie than in Rise. I did like Jason Clarke, Kerry Russell, Cody Smit-McPhee, especially Gary Oldman. He gave a great performance in this movie. There's one really great scene with him where he just breaks down emotionally after seeing his family that's been dead for so many years. I really like that scene. And now, Sean, let's quickly talk about the visuals. I mean, the motion capture work, we don't even have to dive into. This movie should have won the visual effects Oscar than Interstellar. It's just realistic. I mean, every scene in this movie visually is breathtaking. Caesar, the apes, the sweats, like, it looks like they're real apes. All the motion capture work, they should be applauded. I mean, this is just such realistic motion capture work. It's just so brilliant.
Yeah, and in particular, because the nature of the special effects in this is that I fully believe they're in that forest. It does not at all feel like they're on a green screen. It doesn't feel like any of that. And I'm pretty sure they shot it on location, which that's when you start going, wait, that's actual natural lighting. That's the sun shining through. And they're trying to do fully CGI rendered motion capture characters with unpredictable lighting. And you think through all of that, and some of that makes it look so much better, and so much of that makes it so much more impressive that they were to do something so believable, so realistic in a setting that's not controlled. And that's where, to me, I just go, wow. They shot this in a forest with clouds and trees and the wind. Wow.
And I do believe, like, this, nearly all this entire film was on location, which is so good.
And to that, like, if there's something that was shot on green screen, I don't know what it was, because nothing looks like it was shot on a green screen. It fully looks like it was shot in that forest. So even if it was green screen, it's some of the best green screen we've ever seen just in and of itself, and we're not even talking about motion capture yet.
Oh yeah, definitely. The action sequences in this movie, they're so good. One action sequence that I absolutely love is near the third act. Obviously the night battle sequence where Koba, as you know in the movie, spoilers guys, he frames that he was the one that actually tried to kill Caesar, and then he blames the humans on it. And then he starts this whole war this whole rampage to the human area, that just shows right there of how evil Koba is. But it's just so enthralling. I mean, once he tries to kill Caesar, the whole movie goes on a different path. And this is where the war starts between the apes and the humans.
Yeah, I mean, of course, they found a legitimate dramatic excuse to set up these insane, ridiculous scenarios that are so thrilling and exciting, while at the same time horrifying. And once again, exploring ideas that are interesting, because it's somewhat, that's the idea of war. War, on the one hand, as a guy just sitting at my house in the suburbs, I go, why does war exist? Well, you watch this movie and you understand it. There's conflicts, there's miscommunications. And this movie tackles this idea of conflict, battle, war, while giving us these stunning situations where you have apes on horses with dual-wielding machine guns battling a tank with rocket launchers. And you go, like, you say that sentence and you go, how is that in a movie that I'm also saying has incredible dramatic depth and Oscar-worthy performances? But that's how cool this movie is. It doesn't repeat action beats. It's not, there's a big battle where humans and apes fight, and then there's a big battle where humans and apes fight. It's not the same thing. You go from one battle that's this big all-out war with apes on horses, tanks, rocket launchers, machine guns, and then you have sneaking around, and then you have Caesar and Koba fighting out animal style. We would have Caesar and Koba like all out MMA style in a big metal field, like it's a cage match, except it's in a burning building. That's what we want to see, and we want it to be awesome. All right, let's write that in there. And then they crafted a script and a story that justifies every fanboy's dream. That's what this movie is, and they all live up to it.
Now let's talk about Matt Reeves' direction, and also something that I feel doesn't get praised enough is Michael Giacchino's score. I mean, talking about Matt Reeves, he's just the perfect director for this franchise. I mean, sci-fi wise, I'm totally happy he's helming the Batman and not anyone else, because like you said, he does story. He does characters extremely well. And in this movie, he gives you a great storyline about a hero and a villain that has completely different sides. And it has really awesome action sequences like apes on horses and tanks. But he gives you a great story to really care about. And that's something I think Matt Reeves does a great job. And the score. The score also plays a huge part in this movie. I mean, there's so much emotional songs. I love the opening. The opening scene of this movie already had me hooked. I mean, it's tons of exposition, but accompanied with beautiful music. Sean, I don't know if you know this, I predicted the title for the third movie right after watching it. Because Caesar says to Jason Clarke, war has already begun. Because you know it's going to be War of the Planet of the Apes. So that's just little things I do appreciate.
Yeah, and I think the thing that makes Matt Reeves' direction so impressive with this movie is that it has a perpetual sense of tension building. From the beginning, you get there and you sense, all right, this is not a safe place. Like, Caesar's built something special and it's in danger. And then you meet the humans, and immediately you sense, like, we like these humans. They're not, some of them are kind of mean. Some of them aren't so great people. But in general, they're not evil people out to cause problems. They're just people desperate to live. Just at the right moments gives you moments of satisfaction as they hear music for the first time in a long time, and they see their family for the first time in a long time. And so there's payoff in his understanding of, for us to be able to have the depths of the despair that's about to happen, for us to feel the negative emotion of how awful Koba is and why he must be defeated, we have to feel victory. We have to see what they're about to lose. We have to see the hope in front of them, what was there, and that taken away. We're rooting for everyone except Koba, and you're feeling us move towards something. And then we have a sense of loss for everyone. Such a good job, and also why I'm so excited about him directing the Batman. And if Ben Affleck can't do it, this Matt Reeves is just as good of a pick as. So, well, I guess once I see War, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be like, yeah, I am so pumped for the Batman.
Now let's jump into the negatives. I got none, Sean. Do you have any?
Yeah, a little bit. And it's somewhat like what I said about Rise of the Planet of the Apes, in that each of these movies, they have their conveniences to make it so the plot can work in a concise fashion. And so in the first movie, certain events kind of lined up. Caesar's mom goes cuckoo, just happens to be on the day that there's a board meeting about deciding all this stuff. And so if any of this had happened on a different day, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it just happens to happen on the one day that everything can fall apart. As soon as Koba's plan goes into action, to try and transition from that point to kind of going into the third act, we have to kind of buy certain things about Caesar getting injured, almost dying, us believing he's dying, and then him being healed enough to be able to go to battle and defeat Koba. Just the timeline of it, it seemed like we needed a window of time in there, a little bit more explanation or something different. And I don't know what they could have done that would have been better than what they gave us, but it's so much as to put all the pieces they had together. It always felt, the transition felt a little bit not quite as good as everything else in the movie for me. That's it. Everything else is just phenomenal. The drama, the tension, the characters, our understanding of the motivations of everyone on each side. Such a beautifully crafted movie, such a cool movie, and one that I'm so glad that I can say that there's a movie that has great drama, great performances, and apes on horses with machine guns battling tanks.
Oh yeah. Alright, so now let's give our overall ratings. I'll just say mine real quickly. On my rating scale, you guys already know what I'm going to give this. This movie's easily in my top 20 favorite movies of all time. Everything about this movie's a masterpiece. Fantastic performances, fantastic story, and just makes me even more excited for War for the Planet of the Apes and Matt Reeves in general. Everything about this movie's great. If you have not even seen Rise or Dawn, what are you even doing? If you want to see great sci-fi movies and just great blockbusters, watch Rise and Dawn especially. So on my rating scale, this definitely gets a 5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm going to go, I would go a 9.5 out of 10. And for me, that's saying it's like the best of the year. I don't hand those out. I give almost no 10 out of 10s. Those are like only for movies that are like my favorites of all time. And normally stuff from my childhood. I don't know anything from the last 10 years I've given a 10 out of 10. So 9.5 out of 10 is essentially the highest score I give anything. And this movie wholly deserves it. I think it's as well crafted. I think Rise is just as well crafted as this one, except this one's more ambitious in the scale, the scope, the drama. It just does everything a little bit more. Therefore, only for that reason, I bump it up a little bit over Rise. Such a cool movie. I'm so glad this exists. And it's a movie that I hope War does even better than this one did at the box office. And that Hollywood gets the message. You can do incredible action. You can do incredible CGI. And you can work with real drama, and people want it and they love it when you do it right. And you don't have to have a happy ending. These ones don't have happy endings. You can do real drama, real tragedy. And I mean, as much as I love the MCU movies, I love that we have this as the contrast. That's not the fun blockbuster. It's the serious, dramatic one. These are cool movies. This is almost certainly going to be one of my favorite trilogies of all time.
Oh, definitely. All right, guys, so that was our review for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Let us know what you guys think of this movie down below in the comments. Do you agree with us? Do you think we're crazy and disagree with us? Let us know down below in the comments. Sean, thank you so much for joining me in this collab series. I can't wait for War. And just real quickly, Sean, tell my subscribers where we can find you on all of your social media.
Yeah, you can find me. Just look up Sean Chandler Talks About on YouTube. You will find me all over there. I'm also on Facebook at Sean Chandler Talks About, but on Twitter, it's Kirk Never Died. So Kirk Never Died, one word. That's my Twitter handle. Pretty active on all of them, but YouTube, I've got movie reviews, all that fun stuff. I'm on there all the time, and I want to talk to you about movies. So join me over there. And Ryan, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no problem, man. And this is not Sean's last time here. You're going to see him debut on Rottener fresh on my channel at the end of this month against him, Cody Leach, Matthew V. Haynes, and Adam Daly from Almost Sideways. All those guys debuted in my first episode. And yeah, thank you guys as always for watching this collab review. And if you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe today for more content. All my social media links are in the description down below. Be sure to click that notification bell on your way out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!